Thank you, sir. Good evening, everyone, students. Welcome to the problem solving session on GST. So we have completed most of the questions and answers on our aspect on problem solving, but today we'll take few more advanced level questions and then solve this. So some questions, what has been asked by few students, let me take that. So please explain set off of IGST credit in page number 8.11 problem and the conditions mentioned there. Okay, so something on set off, let us take it. 8.11. What is the challenge you are facing there? Okay, so 8.11 says on how to compute the minimum GST payable for the electronic cash ledger. GST payable, you have no doubts over here. So this is the GST payable. Okay. Now the credit, ITC credit of first ITC first ITC of IGST shall be fully utilized in full. First against IGST liability and then against CGST or SGST liabilities in any order. That's what we had discussed. So fully IGST credit of, so there is a credit of 1,85,000. 1,85,000 you are utilizing fully for IGST liability. Then you are utilizing in the for CGST 22,000 and 19,000 for SGST. Okay, it is one of the many ways. As the note says, you could offset this IGST credit against CGST and SGST in any order so that you have to pay less minimum taxes. That is the objective. Okay, so with this objective, you're achieving minimum GST payable in cash is nil. There is no GST payable at all. Okay, how does that operate is out of 1,85,000 credit, 1,44,000 is utilized here. Balance of 41,000 you can apportion in any order among CGST and SGST, not necessarily equally. It can be in any order, any percentage. The set off of 41,000 against CGST and SGST liability in cash and to carry forward both CGST and SGST ITC equally. Okay, because you have to utilize the IGST in such a manner that you can utilize whatever is your CGST and SGST credit respectively. So since you have credit of SGST to the extent of 71,000, you will utilize 19,000 of IGST for SGST payable and 22,000 of IGST credit against CGST liability, so that your ITC balance is also carried and you don't have to pay any cash amount. That is how this has been computed. How the IGST is apportioned? IGST is apportioned in such a manner that now, see, I don't have the question, right? We'll have to go through the question completely, Nistala, and understand. The main point what we have to learn from here is IGST credit utilized for your IGST liability completely and then apportion with your CGST and SGST. If the entire ITC of 41,000 is set up against CGST, then SGST of 3,000 will be payable. So you are having a calculation in such a way that you don't have to pay any GST also. Okay. So let's now continue with our question answer so that we will have similar questions. Your query will get resolved over there. So we have completed till question number 24. Now we are going to question number 25. Agro Care Limited, registered under GST, furnishes the following details with respect to activities which is undertaken by them in the month of March 2021. What are the activities? Receipts from supply of farm labor 85,000, charges for seed testing 65,000, charges for soil testing of farmland 35,000, charges for warehousing of potato chips 85,000, commission received. So various activities are there. So there's not much complication in this. So each of these activities we have to see whether it is chargeable to GST or no. Ultimately compute the value of taxable supply of Agrogate Limited for the month of March 2021 if all the above amounts are exclusive of GST. Competition of 24, okay, 24 he had left. Okay, I'll come back to 24 since you have started the question on 25. Let's complete 25 and then go back to 24. No worries. Agro Care Limited, like how we have do in your CA exams, also in your exams, you will attempt those questions which is easier than attempting the questions in the chronological order. It is not necessary that you have to answer the questions in the chronological order. You could go in any order. So we are going with this question. Yes, Neha, 23 we completed, 24 will come back. Thanks for reminding. So Agrocare Limited, computation of GST liability. Okay. The first line item is receipts of supply from farm labor. Is it liable to GST? Supply of farm labor, is it taxable? Can we utilize CGST and SGST ITC before utilization of IGST ITC? No, you have to use the IGST ITC first, then your CGST and SGST ITC. It is not taxable, exempted. Correct. So it is exempted. Reference is just for your reference, I've given it. For everything, the reference would be same, that entry number 54 for agriculture produce, entry number 54 of notification number 12 of 2017. Should we remember this entry number? Not actually, but this is only given for your reference. Second item is charges for seed testing. Charges for seed testing again is exempted. It is not liable. Third is charges for soil testing of farmland. Okay. Seed testing and soil testing, all of this is exempted and not liable to GST. Fourth item is charges for warehouse of potato chips. Now, is this liable or exempted? charges for warehouse of potato chips is taxable, right? Because these are not primary agricultural produce, secondary produce. So this is taxable. Had it been just potato, then it will be agriculture produce and it will be exempted. But this is a question of warehousing of potato chips, so that will be taxable. Fourth item is commission received on sale of wheat. Okay, any commission received on sale of agriculture produce is exempted, so this will also be exempted. Then charges for training of farmers on use of new pesticides and fertilizers developed through scientific research. So any kind of training you give to farmers, that is also tax exempted, not taxable. Then renting of vacant land to stud farm. So any renting of vacant land for agriculture produce, and agriculture includes animals, right? So any kind of farming you do is also exempted, isn't it? Stud farm means farming of horses. Okay, farming of horses is called a stud farm. Seventh one, Mayur Gupta is saying exempt. What about others? Everybody is saying eight is, and if you are saying eight is exempt, seven, okay. Seven, they're saying no, it is taxable because stud farm is not exempted, right? Stud farm, mind you, rearing of all forms of domestic animals are exempted except horses. When they specifically use the word except horses, stud farm is farming of horses itself. So it is taxable, it is not exempt. Then eighth point is leasing of vacant land to a cattle farm. Is this taxable? Since stud farm is taxable, what is the difference in cattle farm? Cattle farm also should be taxable then. Hmm. Eighth one is exempted. Okay, eighth is exempted because cattle farm is exempted. Correct. So cattle farm is exempted, stud farm is taxable. Then ninth one, charges for warehousing of rice. Warehousing of rice is a agriculture produce, and specifically in the warehousing, they mention agriculture produce and rice. So that is also exempted. Then point number 10, charges for warehousing of cotton fabrics. Okay, for cotton fabrics, is it taxable or exempted? Warehousing of paddy applies to rice also? Yes. Warehousing of paddy applies to rice also. And specifically, they mentioned warehousing of rice. Charge for warehousing of cotton fabrics. is not a agriculture produce, so it is taxable. Then retail packaging and labeling of fruits and vegetables. Good that for every point you are responding correctly, and good that you're participating. Correct. Rice is not an agriculture produce because paddy is an agriculture produce. So rice is not an agriculture produce, but warehousing of such rice is exempted, Ram. Specifically, they mention warehousing of agriculture produce and rice. So that's the reason there is an exemption for it. Yeah, Jalal Bihani, you're right in your analysis that taxable as primary packaging exempt and not retail packaging, but specifically there's an exemption which says retail packaging is also exempted. That's the reason this will also be exempted. Now, to be very careful, this is the exemption on retail packaging and labeling of foods. Generally, wholesale packaging that is for applicable for other uh, dhan products or other grain products. But for fruits and vegetables, even retail packaging is exempted. Point number 12, charges for warehousing of minor forest produce. So minor forest produce is also specifically mentioned. That is also exempted. Same, the entry for year will be different, but then charges for warehousing of spices. Is spices exempted? Right. Spices is also specifically exempted. So what is the value of taxable supply? Whatever we add. So 85,000 plus 185 plus 2 lakhs makes it 4 lakh 70,000 is the value of taxable supply. Minor forest produce, they've specifically given a list, Diksha, like tamarinds. Those are all not farmed. They are all grown naturally at the forest. So they are all called as minor forest produce. Okay, very simple question, but even one item, if you consider as taxable, then the whole answer gets wrong. But don't worry, the corrections are in such a way that it is all step basis. So even if one item, if you mention as taxable, doesn't mean that you're not going to get any marks for the complete question. So there'll be a reduction in mark. Doesn't mean that everything is gonna go to a toss. They have step method basis. So each step, how much you have considered, whether you have considered exempted or taxable, that is what they will see. Why is point number 11 exempted? Because specifically they mentioned that retail packaging and labeling of fruits is exempted. That's the reason. Otherwise, it is not. Confusion point number 13, warehousing of spices. Warehousing of spices, like how there is specific mention of warehousing of warehousing of rice. Even though rice is not a primary produce. Similarly, on warehousing of spices also there is a specific exemption. Okay, Nagraju, warehousing of spices is taxable now. Okay, let me just check that. Okay, agriculture related warehousing of rice, warehousing of minor forest produce, warehousing of cereals, pulses, fruits and vegetables. There is no specific mention of warehousing of spices, and spices is specifically mentioned as not agriculture produce. So you are right. There is a correction here that warehousing of spices is taxable. So 2,20,000 is taxable. Entry number 24B. Let me just cross check this notification as well. Okay, it's only services by way of storage and warehousing of cereals, pulses, fruits, and vegetables. Correct. Earlier, it was warehousing of cereals, pulses, fruits, nuts, and jaggery, spices specifically. Now there is an amendment with effect from 18 July 2022. So spices is removed. Taxable with effect from 18 July 2022. You don't have to mention the date, but you have to just mention that it is taxable. Only for our reference, I'm mentioning the date. Thanks for clarifying that, Nagraju. Okay, problem in point number 10. What is the problem in point number 10? Warehousing of cotton fabrics is taxable. एग्जाम में रेफरेंस नंबर देना जरूरी नहीं है तनु विश्वकर्मा. Vacant land is exempt or no? Vacant land is exempt, but why do you give this vacant land for is important. If you give this vacant land for farming permitted agricultural produce, then it is exempted, not otherwise. Okay. Let's proceed to the point number 10. It is only cotton, then only if it is cotton, then it will become taxable. Since it is cotton fabric, that becomes taxable. Had it been only cotton, it will become exempted. Yeah, question number 24, which I had forgotten. Question number 10 says, Messrs. Hiralal and Sons, furnished registered in Karnataka, has opted to avail the benefit of composition scheme. It has furnished the following details for the tax period ended on 30th June 2000. Taxable turnover of goods within the state is 15 lakhs. Exempted turnover of goods within the state is 17 lakhs. Total is 32 lakhs. Using the above information, calculate tax to be paid by the firm for the tax period ended on 30th June 2000 in the following independent situation where Hirala and Sons is a manufacturer and when Hirala and Sons is a trader. What is your answer? Okay. What are the other produce is taxable in warehousing? Only exemption list is there. Other than exempt, everything becomes taxable. Question number 24 on manufacturer, what is the percentage and what is the percentage for trader? Both it is 1%. Then why two separate questions have been asked? Is 18% applicable, sir? No, it is composition scheme, right? So why will it be 18%? Manufacture of which goods, since they have not mentioned any specific goods, so you can consider that it is not in those restricted goods list. Manufacturer can't claim ITC, right? We cannot claim ITC. So we have not, there's no question of ITC here. It is a question of output tax payable. $15,000 in both the cases. Okay, because you are taking only taxable turnover. Is that so? In composition, does it say that you have to take only taxable turnover? No. There is a difference because the terminology used in payment of tax under composition is different. That's why this question is there for us. Messrs. Hiralal, computation of tax payable under composition scheme if Messrs. Hiralal and Sons is a manufacturer. If he's a manufacturer, tax is to be paid at 1% of the turnover in the state. It just uses the word turnover. Doesn't say taxable turnover or thing. It just says turnover. And my turnover in the state is total turnover. I will not take only taxable turnover because the definition for rate uses the word 1% of the turnover. So 1% of 32 lakhs makes it 32,000. 16,000 CGST and 16,000 SGST. Second point is when Mrs. Hiralal and Sons is a trader. If he's a trader, tax is to be paid at 1% on the taxable supply. When they have specifically used the word taxable supply, here I will use the benefit of paying tax only on 15 lakhs. So 1% of 15 lakhs makes it 15,000. Okay. So that's where the difference comes that even for a composition dealer, the term used for manufacturer is 1% of the turnover in the state. And in case of a trader, it is 1% of taxable supplies. Manufacturer 15,000. No, manufacturer it is 32,000 Diksha and trader it is 15,000. Clear? So this question was to make you understand that composition rate is 1% both for manufacturer and trader, but the base is different. Okay, let's go to the next question. 25th way of question you have completed. Let's now go to 26th question. Vivita and Company, a registered dealer. Tax is exempted under composition supply and not composition scheme, right? Didn't understand your question, Tanishka. The tax payable is on the total turnover or the taxable turnover. If it is exempted turnover more than 40 lakhs, this situation required for GST registration. No, not that way. If it is exempted turnover more than 40 lakhs, yeah, they have taken registration. So the question is not registration because they have already taken registration as a composition dealer. If their exempted turnover is more than 40 lakhs, in a normal situation, yes, they will have to take the GST registration. Question number 26. Vivita and Company, a registered dealer in Ludhiana, furnishes the following details of purchases and sales made for the month of July 2021. Good A purchased from local market, including GST at 12%. Good B purchased from Jaipur at 82,600. Sales made during the month to dealer of Kolkata of product goods A 40,000 and goods B 25,000. Sales made within the state of goods B is 35,000. Above sales amount given is exclusive of GST. Compute the net CGST, SGST, and IGST liability and input tax credit, if any, for the month of July 2021. So, what is the missing part here, which we will have to fill? They have given the values. They have given the values of purchases, what they have made, and they've given the sales, what they've made during the year, right? So, what has to be computed here? We have to compute the net GST, CGST, and IGST payable method. Matlab, output minus input, what is the net GST payable is what we have to calculate. Is there any opening balance of input tax credit? No information. So assume opening input tax credit is nil. Okay. Interstate sales, first they have made, he's in, right? Now he's making sales. So first, even though they have given purchases in a question, we will calculate sales first, then the input tax credit. So interstate sales, because they are in Ludhiana and they have sold to Kolkata. So I know it is an interstate sale. Interstate sale of what? Of goods A. Goods A is sold for a value of 40,000 rupees. On this 40,000, what will be the rate of tax? Will it be 18%? Or will it be 5%? There are 5 rates, right? 0%, 5%, 12%, 18%, 28%. Now, have they given details of what is the tax payable on goods A? Not directly, but they have given here that goods A are purchased from local market at 12%. So when the rate on goods A is 12%, my rate on output also will be same. So that's the reason they have not specifically mentioned in sale. They have mentioned in purchases, which means same rate applies, right? Because you're a trader, furnishes the following details of purchases and sales made. So same rate will apply. Goods A, 40,000 at 12%. IGST on 40,000 at 12%. Goods B is purchased at 18%. So I will charge 18% here. Goods B, 25,000 into 18%. Again, this is an interstate supply. So 25,000 into 18%. Then intrastate sales. there is a sales made within the state of goods B. Goods B at 18%, 35,000 into 18%, 9% CGST and 9% SGST. Total output is 3,150 CGST, 3,150 SGST, and 9,300 of IGST. Now, ITC, how much is the ITC I have? For that, let me do a working. ITC on goods A, it is 50,400, which is including GST at 12%. So I have to gross it up. 50,400 divided by 112 into 12. And then again, break that into half of CGST and SGST. Why? Because this is purchased from local market. So CGST and SGST will come in. And on good B, it is including IGST at 18% because it is purchased from Jaipur. So IGST is charged. So 82,600 divided by 118 into 18 will give you the IGST credit. So my total credit is 2,700, 2,700 and 12,600. Now, how will I utilize? This is my output and this is my input. 9,300, this we have discussed, right? Seeing that IGST credit of 12,600 has to get utilized with this 9,300 first. So I'm utilizing, giving a table of my ITC movement and how I'm utilizing. 12,600, I will utilize this 9,300 first. Okay, this is gone. Okay, which is getting utilized here. Next is IGST का balance कितना बचा है? 12,600 minus 9,300. This I will utilize equally for CGST and SGST, 1,650 each. Okay, I've utilized this equally. So 1,650 I will reduce from my liability of CGST and 1,650 liability of SGST. Balance payable is 1,500 each. Now, how much credit of CGST and SGST I have? 2,700 each. For payment of CGST, I will utilize 1,500 from here because balance 1,500 is liable. So 1,500 I have utilized here. Then CGST balance from 2,700, I will utilize 1,500. So 1,500 is getting utilized here. So from a credit of 2,700, I have availed for this month sale 1,500. Balance is the credit which is carried forward. Similarly for CGST and SGST. IGST nothing because I have utilized full IGST for CGST and SGST respectively. Fine. So total ITC utilized. So nothing is payable in cash. Once again, can you explain utilization of ITC? It's very clear here, Neha, but okay. Just for reference, your liability is this much. Now, IGST ka liability you have to first utilize, right? So liability of 9,300 you will utilize from the credit of IGST. From 12,600 you will utilize 9,300. The balance is 3,300, right? 3,300 balance. You will offset with CGST and SGST half of. but you can take it in any proportionate, not necessarily. In this case, why I'm taking half is because my ITC balance of CGST and SGST is also equal. That's the reason seeing this, I am taking it. Had it been a case where my CGST would have been less, then I would have utilized ITC credit for CGST more and for SGST less. But here, since it's equal, I will utilize both equally for IGST credit for payment of CGST and SGST. Balance what is payable, CGST credit is utilized for CGST liability and SGST credit is utilized for SGST liability. Okay. How 1,200? The balance, right? ITC credit of 2,700, you have utilized 1,500, 2,700 minus 1,500 is 1,200. Actually, IGST should balance of 2,400. Why 2,400, Nagraju? 12,600. I've utilized here, right? 12,600 over here. So why there should be a balance of 2,400? In this case, if the aggregate turnover of the month would be more than 50 lakhs, then how to calculate 1% cash liability? Yeah, if it is that case of 50 lakhs, then you can utilize the credit only to the extent of 99%. So from your liability of 9,300, you will utilize 9,300 over here into 99 percentage. Okay. So then you will pay 9,217 through credit, right? And ITC utilized will be 9,207. And you will say that GST payable from electronic cash ledger will be this much. You will utilize your this much, and respectively, everything you will utilize only to the extent of 99 percentage. Can we use ITC in different way in which ITC credit will 2,400? No, didn't get your question. The ITC chapter, Nistala, will be asked from various chapters. It will be bundled up, not necessarily only ITC, like how we are seeing supply, exemption, all those chapters can get mixed with ITC because ITC gets linked with a lot of other chapters. Okay, let's proceed with next question. Messrs. PQR Properties registered under GST as taxable person is engaged in the business of renting various immovable properties owned by it. During the month ending on 31st March 2021, it collected a rent of 5 lakh rupees. Okay. During the said month. Just 1 minute. Okay. During the month ending on 31st March 2021, it collected a rent of 5 lakh. The said sum includes rent from vacant land used for agriculture 50,000, lake and land for this thing. Okay, so a lot of things are there. Now we have to compute the amount of GST payable by the firm, assuming that the rent is exclusive of GST, if any. applicable to each case. Rate of GST is 18%. Make suitable assumptions. Now, in this previous question, Nagaraju, when you are set up the tax liability of CGST and SGST only to the extent of tax payable in relevant heads. Correct, sweetie. In that case, where it is more than 50 lakhs, you'll utilize only 99%. Okay. So question number 27, PQR properties, taxability and the tax payable. So what it's saying is this question is little different. So it is not that we need to add these. We will have to do a reverse calculation because they have received rent of 5 lakh rupees. Now this 5 lakh rent includes the following portions. If it is taxable, then we don't have to do anything. If it is exempted, then we will have to uh, add it back. Okay. So whatever is exempted, we will reduce it. Rent from vacant land used for agriculture, right? So vacant land used for agriculture is exempted. So we'll treat it as exempt. So nothing, yeah, we will reduce it because 5 lakh is the total rent. Whatever is exempted, we will reduce it. Second, rent from land used for Appu circus. Is it taxable or exempted? Mayur, you're right. We will calculate first the GST liability, then the ITC available, and then utilization. So this question you have to be very careful because you're not, unlike the previous question, it is not directly if it is taxable you're adding, and if it is exempted you're reducing. You're not including it. Here, if it is exempted, then you are reducing it because 5 lakh is the total rent. Second one, yes, everybody is saying it correctly. It is taxable. It is liable to GST. So we have not doing it. We are not doing any adjustment for this. Third part is property let for residential purposes. Any property which is rent for residential purposes, is it taxable or exempted? Question. Okay. Yeah. Third one is houses let to individuals for residential purposes 70,000. It is exempted. Correct. So residential purposes, if you give anything, it is exempted. So you will add that back. Fourth one, building led to an hotel. Okay. So hotel lent in case of property let out for residential purposes, we have treated it as exempt. But property let for hotel, it will become taxable. You can solve the question reverse way. Yes, you can do it. How will you solve it in case of a reverse way? Why is circus taxable? Because there is no exemption. Because even for a specifically when you give out a land for agricultural purposes or for residential purposes, only then it is exempted. All other cases, it becomes taxable. So that's why renting of land for Appu Circus is taxable. Fourth one, yes, commercial purpose, taxable. You're right. Fifth one, vacant land given on lease to Messrs. ABC Limited for construction of a building at a later stage to be used for furtherance of business or commerce. So I am using this vacant land for construction of a building which I will use for my business. Ram, if you ignore 5 lakhs and do it in simple forward charge, how will you get the taxable value? You will not get it because this 5 lakh includes the following things. Now, does this sum up to 5 lakhs? If it sums up, then it's fine. If it's not, then you will have to do in only this manner. Let me see if that works. If that works, we could pay also. Yeah, in case of fifth one, vacant land given on lease to ABC Limited for construction of a building at a later stage to be used for furtherance of business, it is liable to GST. Sixth point, premises led to a religious body being temple trust. So charitable organization, when you're giving it to a temple, it will be exempted, right? If not given use of business, still it will be taxable because any kind of construction of building you do, it will become taxable. And it is not that you're selling a land, then it will become an immobile property. It is leasing of land, it will become taxable. Sixth one, taxable. Yes, everybody is giving a correct answer. Even though it is for a religious body for temple trust, it is liable to GST. There is no exemption. Seventh point, premises led to a coaching center where students come and learn, right? So shouldn't it be exempted? Services provided to a trust is taxable and land also taxable. Correct. That's why sixth one is taxable. Don't get emotionally carried away that it is exempted, that you're giving it to a coaching center, you're giving it to a religious body, so it will become exempted. It is not exempt. To coaching center is liable to tax. So I will not do anything on this. Eighth one, building led to a hospital. At least hospital should be exempted, no? Because healthcare services are exempted. So when we let a building to a hospital, it will be exempted then. But it is letting out, so it is taxable. In what situation renting for residential purpose is also liable to tax? When you are renting the residential purposes to a registered person who is liable to GST, then it will become taxable. Otherwise, it is exempted. Building to hospitals. Healthcare services provided by healthcare is exempted, but services provided to a healthcare is taxable. So renting of immobile property to a hospital is taxable. So what I've done, from 5 lakh, I have reduced whatever is exempted, which will give me the actual taxable value. So the taxable value of supply is 3,80,000, GST payable at 18% at 68,400. Good. So everybody will meet together. So good, we could sail this all together. Now question number 28. Messrs. XYZ and Company, a firm of chartered accountants, issued invoices for services rendered to Mr. A on 7 September. Determine the time of supply in the following independent cases. Each of this case is independent, nothing is dependent. So you have to answer in each of these cases. Okay. It's a firm of chartered accountants, so it is providing services. It renders issued invoice for the service rendered to Mr. A on 7th September. Okay. Date of issue of invoice is 7th September. The provision of service was completed on 1st of August and payment was received on 28th September. So what is the time of supply in this case? First August. Okay. 7th September. Date of issue of invoice is earlier than the date of receipt of payment. Okay. 1st August, since the payment of the date of issue of invoice or the date of provision of service, whichever is earlier. Okay. So let us mention the provision. Since we have to dwell into time of supply for all of this, so we will first mention the time of supply for services so that the examiner knows that we know the provision, and then we are answering the question. The time of supply of services is the date of issue of invoice if the same is issued within 30 days of the date of supply or the date of receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. In case the invoice is not issued within 30 days from the date of supply, then the time of supply will become the date of provision of service or the date of receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. Fine. So these are the two possibilities. In accordance with this, the time of supply in the 4 independent cases will be as follows. First August, since the invoice is not issued within 30 days. In this case, 1st August is the provision of service. You have to raise the invoice within 30 days, which is you should have raised by 31st August, but you have raised the invoice on 7th September. So where invoice is not issued within 30 days from the date of supply of service, then the time of supply is the date of provision of this service, which is 1st August, or the date of receipt of payment, and receipt is on 28th September. So time of supply will be 1st August. Okay. Second case is provision of service was completed on 14th August and the payment was received on 28th September. Since in this case, you have completed the service on 14th August and raised the invoice within 30 days. So time of supply is raising of invoice or receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. 7th September is the correct answer. In third situation, Mr. A made the payment on 3rd August. However, the provision of service was remaining to be completed. 3rd August, you have received the payment and provision of service was remaining to be completed. What happens in third case? Third case, date of payment is earlier, so it is 3rd of August. Correct. What happens in fourth case? A made a payment on 15th September. However, the provision of service was remaining to be completed. So in fourth case, what happens? Since provision is not yet completed, will there be time of supply or no? Fourth, 7th September. You are saying 15th September. But provision of service is not completed, no? Correct. What is the difference between case 3 and case 4? Case 3 and case 4, both provision was not completed, but the payment in third case is received on 3rd August, and in fourth case, it is 15th September. So the time of supply in fourth case will become the issue of invoice, which is 7th September, earlier of date of issue of invoice or the date of receipt of payment, whichever is earlier. So you have issued the invoice on 7th September, so that will become the time of supply. Clear? Got the difference between third case and fourth case, Tanishka? Okay. Let's take one more question on time of supply before we go for a break. Question number 29. Messrs. Munch and Wunsch Trading Company, a registered supplier. Problem in second case. What is the problem in second case? The provision of service was completed on 14th August and payment was received on 20th September. So what is the problem there? Issue of invoice on 7th September. Okay. And service was completed on 14th August. So you have to issue the invoice within 30 days. You have issued within invoice on within 30 days. So 7th September becomes the time of supply. What is the issue there? Okay. Question number 29. Munch and Munch Trading Company is liable to pay GST under forward charge. It has furnished the following information. Goods were supplied on 3rd October. Invoice was issued on 5th October and payment is received on 9th October. Okay. So determine the time of supply of goods for the purpose of payment of tax. Deepak Jha and Diksha have given the correct answer. What about others? Somebody is saying Harish and Avinash are saying the time of supply is 5th October. Okay, let me just twist this because it's a very simple question otherwise. If the payment is received on 1st October, goods are supplied on 3rd October, and invoice issued on 5th October, then what will be the time of supply? Ram, it says goods were supplied. So it means they were supplied. Now we cannot add further tasks whether it is gone from warehouse and available to recipient. It is supplied. Supplied means your obligation is completed. Third, fifth. Vaishali, if service is completed, an invoice also issued within time, but payment received half said mistake in work, then again provide service, then make full payment. सर इसमें तो कैसे चेक करेंगे? आपने इनवॉइस रेज कर दिया, पेमेंट बाद में आया, तो इनवॉइस रेज कर दिया तो आपका टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई वहीं पे खत्म हो गया। अगर कुछ डिफेक्ट है सर्विस में, आपको क्रेडिट नोट रेज करना पड़ेगा। तो दीक्षा has come up and said that it is 1st October. Nishtal also saying 1st October. Okay. 1st October invoice issued and payment received, whichever is earlier. Okay. Avinash is also saying 1st October. What is the time of supply for goods for your kind reference? As per notification number 66, which we had discussed, a registered person as per notification number 66, a registered person excluding composition supply has to pay GST on the outward supply at the time of supply as specified under 12(2)(a), that is date of issue of invoice or the last day on which invoice ought to be issued in terms of section 31, which means time of supply will not be the criteria for supply of goods. Further, a registered person is required to issue a tax invoice before or at the time of removal of goods. Now, in this case, removal of goods is 3rd October, but he is issued late. Okay. In the given case, the invoice for supply of goods should have been issued at the time of removal, that is on 3rd, but that has not happened. So time of supply, and since the invoice has not been issued within the prescribed time of supply for the purpose of payment of tax will be the last day on which invoice is required to be issued, which is 3rd of October. Okay. So the time of supply, even in the case of alteration of payment, it is still 3rd of October. Ram, in case of services, that condition will apply. In case of goods, issue of invoice. Correct. As per section 31 is issue of invoice, but invoice which is ought to be issued when it should be issued before removal of the goods. So in this case, goods have been removed on 3rd, so time of supply will be 3rd itself. Did not understand question number 29. Question 29 का solution ये बोलता है कि where it is supply of goods, time of supply will be the time of supply will be the date of issue of invoice, actual date of issue of invoice, or the last day on which invoice ought to be issued. कि आपको कब invoice raise करना चाहिए, वो date या फिर actual date of issue of invoice, whichever is earlier. In this case, the actual date of issue of invoice is 3rd is 5th अक्टूबर, लेकिन आपको इनवॉइस इश्यू कब करना था? जब आपने गुड्स को रिमूव कर दिया। गुड्स को आपने 3rd अक्टूबर को रिमूव कर दिया है, तो आपको इनवॉइस 3rd को रेज करना चाहिए था, लेकिन आपने 5th को रेज किया है। तो टाइम ऑफ सप्लाई विल बी द 3rd of October itself. If invoice not issued within the time limit, यहाँ पे time limit is not 30 days unlike services. In this case of supply of goods, time limit is the time when you supply the goods itself. So उसके पहले raise करना चाहिए. If not, the time of supply will be the time when the goods are removed from the premises. Removal of goods will become the time of supply. Okay. So let's take a break of 10 minutes and we will cut back in 10 minutes. Payment is not necessary in goods, correct? Thank you. So yeah, question on JD 129, question number 23, instead of mentioning exempted, we can mention nil. Yes, we can mention nil, and you give the reason saying that it is exempted, so it will be mentioned as nil. That is permitted. So question number 30 is what we are looking at. Okay, could you please see point number 3 of question number 6? I'm sorry, I don't have that paper now, sweetie. That's why I will not be able to see that. Question number 30. With the help of the following information in the case of Messrs. Jayant Enterprises Jaipur for the financial year, determine the aggregate turnover for the purpose of registration under CGST. Okay. Sale of diesel on which sales tax is levied by Rajasthan government, 1 lakh rupees. So this is the value of diesel sales. Export supply to England, 5 lakh rupees. Supply to its own additional place of business in Rajasthan, 5 lakh rupees. And outward supply on which GST is to be paid by recipient under reverse charge, 1 lakh rupees. All the amounts are excluding GST. You are required to provide reasons for treatment of various items given above. Ishwar Kumar, if the goods are supplied for quality checking to the client, an invoice can be issued only after getting approval of quality. Then the provision related to invoice will still apply. Yeah, if it is, we have seen no time of supply on sale or approval basis. Once it is approved, then you should raise a invoice. But the outer time limit is but within 180 days. So if you're giving something as supply and approval of quality, once they approve, you can raise an invoice, but they should approve it within 180 days. So how will you supply the goods then? Through a delivery challan. Exempted supply में nil rated supply, which is GST rate है, उसमें GST rate का एक notification है. अगर उस notification में nil mention किया है, so that is nil rated supply. Exempted supply is those supply which is specifically exemption is given and not liable to GST are those supplies on which GST is not leviable at all, like petroleum products and 5 petroleum products and alcoholic liquor for human consumption. ये है 5 products which is not liable to tax. So that is the difference of nil rated supply, exempt supply and not liable to supply. Lekin definition of exempt supply says exempt supply includes nil rated and not liable to GST. So वो भी आपको ध्यान में रखना चाहिए. Sweetie Kumari, where will I get that question? If you could just send the link, I will download and I could answer your query. Okay. Question number 30. Jayant Enterprises computation of aggregate turnover for the purpose of registration. First is sale of diesel on which VAT is levied by Rajasthan government. Presently, GST is not leviable on petroleum products and hence such supply is non-taxable supply. Now, the definition of exempt supply, as I was saying, exempt supply includes non-taxable supply. So aggregate turnover includes exempt supply. So this value you will include for the purpose of calculation of aggregate turnover. We are not calculating a value on which GST is payable. We are calculating the value on which we have to consider aggregate turnover for the purpose of leviability or the purpose of registration. Okay, so this will include second export supply to England, right? Export supply to England is interstate supply and thus included in the annual turnover. Though zero rated and not considered exempt supply, they are still included in the aggregate turnover. So 5 lakh rupees. Then supply on its own additional place of business in Rajasthan. The additional place of business also is in Rajasthan. Supply made without consideration to units within same state, unless specifically registered, is not a supply and hence not includable in the aggregate turnover. This I will not include. Why? Because it's an additional place of business. When I say it's an additional place of business, it means it has one registration. Had it been a separate registration, then that will become a principal place of business. Since it is mentioned as its own additional place of business, it means it is one registration number. So this will not be included here. Got it? Supply to a entity will be considered as liable to GST if it has a separate registration. Only then it will be included. Supply is included? Yes, supply. Outward supply on which GST is to be paid by recipient under reverse charge. So is this my turnover? Aggregate turnover includes all supplies by the supplier, irrespective of whether they are subject to forward charge or reverse charge. Inward supply is excluded, but this is my outward supply. So this also I have to include. On this, will I pay GST? I will not pay GST. So this is not, this is to be included for the purpose of aggregate turnover. So my total aggregate turnover is 7 lakh rupees. 5 plus 1 plus 1. A lot of people are saying 11 in this. So actual answer is 7. So my aggregate turnover is 7 lakh rupees. So in this case, should he take registration or no? Since his aggregate turnover is 11 lakhs, should he take registration or no? Just 7 lakhs, not even 11. 7 lakhs. So should he take registration or no under GST? If we go with the scheme of compulsory registration, there are 2 points. One is compulsory registration is required when when you do any interstate supply. In this case, you are making a export supply, correct? It is an interstate supply. So from that perspective, you have to take registration under compulsory registration. But then there is another limit which says that persons who are not liable for registrations, when person who is engaged exclusively in supplying of business of supplying goods or services not liable to tax are wholly exempt from tax. This is not liable to tax. This is also not liable to tax. And there is no taxable supply on which GST is payable. So from that perspective, also he is not required to take registration. So even though he's making interstate supply under compulsory registration, there is another section which says if you're not making any taxable supply, you don't have to register. In this case, he's not making any taxable supply, so registration will still not be required. Okay, I'm referring to this provision, which says person not liable for registration under section 23, person engaged exclusively in the business of supplying goods and services not liable to tax, okay, are wholly exempt from tax. They are not liable for registration. So in this case, he will not be liable for registration in this count. Okay, let's go to the next question now. Question number 31. Rajesh Dynamics, having its head office in Chennai, carries on the following activities with respective turnovers in a financial year. Supply of petrol at Chennai. Supply of petrol at Chennai, 36 lakhs. Value of inward supplies on which tax is payable under reverse charge, 18 lakhs. Supply of transformer oil at Chennai, 4 lakh. Value of taxable supply at Bangalore branch, 26 lakh. It argues that it did not have a taxable turnover crossing threshold limit of 40 lakhs, either at Chennai or Bangalore. So it will not take the registration. Describe based on the above facts the aggregate turnover of Rajesh Dynamics and all conditions that fulfill the requirements of registration under CGST Act in the given circumstances. Okay, again, your same registration. He's saying that he is of the assumption that the turnover is not crossing 40 lakhs neither at Chennai nor at Bangalore. So he will not take registration. Is it correct? First, we will calculate the aggregate turnover of Rajesh Dynamics. Rajesh Dynamics, I hope you're taking note of these answers because nobody's told I'm fast and I'm slow. So I'm assuming I'm going at a good pace where you are able to pop up and write up these pointers. Okay. Supply of petrol at Chennai. It's a non-taxable turnover, but it is an exempt supply. And exempt supply is part of the aggregate turnover. So you will include it as a aggregate turnover. Then value of inward supplies on which tax is payable is not to be included because value of inward supplies on which tax is payable on reverse charge does not constitute turnover, even though you have to pay tax under reverse charge, but it is not included in your aggregate turnover. Then supply of transformer oil at Chennai, it's a taxable turnover, right? Other than petroleum products, taxable transformer oil or any engine oil, these are all GSTable goods. So on this GST will be payable. It's a taxable turnover. So definitely we have to add this as a part of aggregate turnover. Then value of taxable supplies of Bangalore branch, which is presumed as interstate supply because it is presumed to be intrastate supply. It's a taxable turnover. Value of taxable supplies at Bangalore branch. At Bangalore itself, they have made a supply. So this is assumed intrastate. Okay, why? If it is an interstate, then we'll have compulsory registration. So for that reason, I've just considered this as an intrastate supply. So the aggregate turnover as per section 2 subsection 6 is 66 lakhs. So since my turnover is 66 lakhs, I will have to get it registered. So the validity of argument as to threshold of 40 lakh not being crossed at either of place of business is incorrect. Rajesh Dynamics is liable to be registered in Chennai and also in Bangalore as his aggregate turnover in the financial year exceeds 40 lakhs and he is making taxable turnover. Had he made only exempted turnover, then we will not register him. Since he's making taxable turnover, he will have to register. So the argument of the client Rajesh Dynamics, it is not liable for registration is not correct as the aggregate turnover is computed on all India basis. Liability to take GST registration is compulsory required to register under 24 irrespective of the turnover as it liable to pay tax on inward supplies under reverse charge. That is also the case for Chennai because they are taking a reverse charge case on which they have to pay GST. That is also additional reason why you should take registration. Please explain fourth point. Fourth one, value of taxable supply at Bangalore branch. Now this we are treating it as an intra-state supply. The question says that value of taxable supply at Bangalore branch. So they have a branch in Bangalore and Bangalore branch has made some sales. It is not from Chennai to Bangalore, it is Bangalore branch sales itself. So when the Bangalore branch has made some sale, it will be included in the aggregate turnover. So it is included in the aggregate turnover. If I assume that it is an interstate supply of Bangalore branch, then Bangalore branch has to compulsory take registration because on interstate supply, it will have to take registration irrespective of the limit. In 30th question, if the turnover exceeds 20 lakhs, then liable. राजस्थान है ना तो फिर it is value goods service नहीं कर रहा है तो फिर 40 lakhs होना चाहिए. Okay, question number 32. Mr. Vicky Franken, an unregistered famous author, received rupees 3 crores of consideration from Shiv Bhavan Publications, which is located in Indore for supply of services by way of temporary transfer of copyright covered under Section 13(1)(a) of the Copyright Act relating to original literacy works of his new book. He finished his work and made available the book to the publisher, but has yet not raised the invoice. Mr. Vicky Franklin is of the view that SBP is liable to pay tax under reverse charge on services provided by him. SBP, who's the publisher, does not concur with his view and is not ready to deposit the tax under any circumstances. Examine whether the view of Mr. Vicky Franklin is correct. Further, if the view of SBP is correct, what is the recourse available with Mr. Vicky Franklin to comply with the requirements of GST law? As SBP has completely refused to deposit the tax. So the question is on a publishing and an author. The author, should he pay GST or the publisher should pay GST? This involves a case of reverse charge mechanism. So transfer of copyrights liable to GST under RCM. If transferor files declaration, then GST is payable under forward charge. Correct. That is the point which we are trying to highlight here. Yeah, let me just take that completely. Yes, the view of Vicky Franklin is correct. Firstly, GST is payable under reverse charge in case of supply of services by an author by way of transfer or permitting use or enjoyment of a copyright relating to original literacy work to a publisher located in a taxable territory in terms of notification number 13. Therefore, in the given case, person liable to pay tax is the publisher. However, since BBP, the publisher, SBP, has completely refused to deposit the tax, Mr. Vicky Franklin has an option to pay the tax under forward charge on the same, For the purpose, he needs to fulfill the following condition. Since he is unregistered, he has to take first registration. Then he needs to file a declaration in the prescribed form that he exercised the option to pay GST under forward charge and comply with all the provisions as they apply to a person liable to pay tax. And then he has to make a declaration on the invoice which he would issue to SB. ठीक है. तो क्वेश्चन नंबर 32 क्या बोलता है कि एक ऑथर है मयूर एंड ऑथर जो है एक पब्लिशर को अपना डॉक्यूमेंट्स देता है और पब्लिशर पब्लिश करता है, उसके लिए कंसिडरेशन ऑथर को मिलता है. नाउ सर्विस रिसीवर ओके इज दिस पब्लिशर. तो ऑथर बोलता है पब्लिशर तुमको जीएसटी पे करना पड़ेगा, जे पब्लिशर बोलता है नहीं मुझे नहीं पे करना पड़ेगा, तुम ही पे करो. तो इस लड़ाई में क्या होगा इज द क्वेश्चन. तो एक्चुअल लायबिलिटी तो पब्लिशर के ऊपर ही है. अगर मैं डिक्लेरेशन नहीं दूंगा तो पब्लिशर को पे करना है. लेकिन अगर विकी फ्रैंकलिन चाहता है कि वो टैक्स पे करे तो वो टैक्स पे कर सकता है और इनवॉइस रेज करेगा. ठीक है. और उसके ऊपर जीएसटी क्रेडिट क्लेम कर सकता है पब्लिशर और उसे डिक्लेरेशन में देना पड़ेगा कि आई हैव पेड द टैक्स, सो आपको रिवर्स चार्ज में पे करने की जरूरत नहीं. दैट इज व्हाट इज दिस क्वेश्चन अबाउट. Correct, Ram, your point is right that he's not registered, so he will have to pay. Publisher will have to pay firstly. Okay, it's very kind of clear question, no kind of hiccups in this. Question number 33. Chanchal started providing beauty and grooming services and inaugurated Care and Care Beauty Service in Janakpuri, Delhi. On 1st April 2000, she opted to pay tax under 10(2)(a). 10(2)(a) matlab kya hai? Composition scheme. In the said financial year, the aggregate turnover of Care and Care for the quarter ended 30th June was 20 lakhs. Further, for the half year ended 30th September, the turnover reached 50 lakhs. Care and Care Beauty Center recorded a rapid growth and the turnover reached 70 lakhs by the end of October. Determine the total tax liability of Care and Care Beauty Center by the end of October. Simple question hai. Beautification is not exempted service, nahi, exempted nahi hai. It is taxable service. Section 10(2)(a) provides an option to a registered person to pay GST at 3%, which is 3% CGST and 3% SGST, effectively 6%. On the first supply of goods or services up to an aggregate turnover of 50 lakhs made on or after 1st April in any financial year. So the composition scheme for goods and restaurant services is 1.5 crores. Composition scheme for services is 50 lakhs. Okay. So the first supply of goods or services are both shall for the purpose of determining eligibility of the person to pay tax under this notification shall include the supplies from 1st April of a financial to the date from which he becomes liable for registration under this act. Somebody was asking this question right yesterday, that first supplies of goods or services shall for the purpose of determining eligibility shall include the supplies from 1st April from the day when he becomes liable for registration, but for the purpose of determination of tax payable, it shall not be included for the supplies from 1st April of the financial year to the date when he becomes liable for registration. What does this mean? This means that for the purpose of calculating this limit of 50 lakhs, you will consider this, whatever is the turnover from 1st April, but you will not pay taxes before you had registered. Once you start registering, only then you will pay the GST, which means आपका threshold limit services के लिए generally 20 lakhs है. तो 20 lakhs दिल्ली में है तो 20 lakhs की limit 20 lakhs का ही service का limit है. So if you have crossed 20 lakhs, then you will have to take registration. Up to 20 lakhs, so exemption मिल ही जाएगा. So you will get exemption up till that. And then once you register, तब से you have to pay GST under composition rate if you want to opt for it. Now in this case, this taxpayer is opting for composition scheme. She started a business from 1st April. So 1st April से immediately composition पे registration लेने की जरूरत नहीं है. Once she touches 20 lakhs, only then she has to take registration. So thus, care and care center is eligible to pay tax under 10(2)(a) up to aggregate. First 20 lakhs पे नहीं pay करेगा और balance 30 पे pay करेगा, because up to 50 lakhs only they can claim the benefit of the composition. Once they cross 50 lakhs, then they will not be entitled to claim the benefit of composition scheme specifically for services. So the total tax payable is as under. What is the period? What is the tax? And what is the turnover? On quarter 1, since quarter 1 up to June, it was 20 lakhs. Since aggregate turnover is less than 20 lakhs, registration is not required, hence no GST, but we will include it as a turnover because we have to calculate the turnover for the purpose of composition scheme. So we'll calculate 20 lakh, tax on this is nil. Then second quarter, effective rate is 6%, correct? Composition registration ले लिया इसने यहाँ पे. And turnover is how much? The turnover reached rupees 50 lakhs. मतलब 20 था वो 50 पहुंच गया for the half year ended September. तो इस 50 में से 20 हटा दूंगा तो 30 lakhs हो जाएगा. 30 lakhs के ऊपर 6% GST पे करना है. 1,80,000. Then October. September हो गया अभी. October एक ही महीने में 70 lakhs reach हो गया. अब 50 lakhs cross हो जाएगा, right? So then on the differential, she will have to convert into regular scheme and pay GST at 18%. Okay. So here कितना है? 70 minus 50, 20 lakhs. On 20 lakhs at 18% pay करना पड़ेगा. Same 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs here, 1,80,000. But on 20 lakhs now at 18% because she's come out of the composition scheme. So the total tax payable will be 5,40,000. Clear? That is how a composition scheme, you have to be careful for services up to 50 lakhs composition scheme. Once you cross your turnover at 50 lakhs for this year, then you have to pay tax under regular scheme at 18%. Should we calculate quarter-wise tax, sir? Because they've given the question quarter-wise. Had they given question month-wise, then I would have considered month-wise. How they give the question, we have to accordingly prepare the answer according to that. Okay, second part of the question. Are you clear with the first part? Now, second part. Second part of the question says Care and Care Beauty Center wishes to opt for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 from the next year. You are required to advise whether it can do so. This year's turnover is touching 70 lakhs. So can she opt for next year? No. Care and Care Beauty Center cannot opt for composition from the next year. Fundamentally, the composition scheme can be availed in respect of goods and only one service, namely restaurant services. As regards services other than restaurant services considered, only marginal supply of services involved. Okay. So she cannot opt for 10(1). Therefore, a person engaging exclusively in supply of services is not eligible for composition. But basically, since the turnover is crossing 50 lakhs, she cannot opt for composition in the next year under 10(1). So why I'm saying that all of this, because he's asking whether she can opt for composition under section 10(1). For services, you cannot opt for 10(1). For services, you have to go under 10(2)(a). Yes, these questions, Vijay Ragan, will be shared on BOS portal. I will share this. नेम से कौन से वाले नोटिफाइड अमेंडेड रेट है? इसमें तो नोटिफाइड अमेंडेड रेट नहीं है ना, सेम रेट ही चल रहा है। Okay. There are no queries. Yes, questions will be shared along with answers. Yes, I will share both. Question number 34. From the following information, determine the amount of input tax credit admissible to ABC Limited in respect of various inputs purchased for the month of September 2021. Goods purchased without invoice, 25,000. Goods purchased, name sheet 12 subsection 9, क्या क्वेश्चन है आपका? कैन यू जस्ट आस्क मी स्पेसिफिकली उसमें क्या चाहिए? Yeah, 9 to 15 notes are pending, Sumesh. I understand. I've spoken to sir. Sir is taking some more time. I will try to do something. Section 12, subsection 9, name sheet. ओके, 12 सबसेक्शन 9 तो है ही नहीं है, सेक्शन 12 अप टू 6 ही है। Okay, you're saying under IGST law. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, just a moment. I'm just finding out the point on 12 subsection 9. Yeah, place of supply under 12 subsection 9 is where the place of supply of passengers transport service means she is when person travels करता हूँ services लेता है page number 4.39 in book. Go to the specific doubt. Passenger transport service. Okay. Passenger transport service क्या बताता है is where the nature of service is passenger transportation or issue of right to passage for future use and point of boarding not known at the time of issue of right to passage. ठीक है, आपने पैसेंजर ट्रांसपोर्टेशन सर्विस समझ गए कि जब आप कुछ पैसेंजर ट्रांसपोर्ट सर्विस करते हैं जैसे फ्लाइट का टिकट है, ओके, वो पैसेंजर ट्रांसपोर्ट है, वेयर अगर रेसिपिएंट रजिस्टर्ड है देन प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई इज लोकेशन ऑफ द रेसिपिएंट. अगर रजिस्टर्ड प्लेस है, रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन है, तो फिर रजिस्टर्ड पर्सन का एड्रेस कहाँ पे है या फिर उसका जीएसटी रजिस्ट्रेशन कहाँ पे, दैट विल बिकम द प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई. वेयर रेसिपिएंट इज अनरजिस्टर्ड, अगर रेसिपिएंट अनरजिस्टर्ड है तो फिर अगर पैसेंजर ट्रांसपोर्ट सर्विस है, लोकेशन वेयर द पैसेंजर एम्बार्क्स ऑन द कन्वेंस, जहां से वो जर्नी शुरू करेगा, दैट विल बिकम द प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई. ओके, फर्स्ट इज रजिस्टर्ड हो तो फिर कहाँ चढ़ता है कहाँ उतरता है ये देखने की जरूरत नहीं है, जहां पर आप रजिस्टर हो वो आप प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई हो जाएगा क्योंकि आपको क्रेडिट मिलना चाहिए, इसलिए उन्होंने लोकेशन ऑफ द रिसिपिएंट को प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई बता दिया है. सेकेंड केस इज वेयर द सप्लाई रिसिपिएंट इज अनरजिस्टर्ड, देन कहाँ से ये फ्लाइट शुरू होती है, दैट विल बिकम द लोकेशन प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई. सेकेंड सिनारियो इज वेयर इश्यू ऑफ राइट टू पैसेज फॉर फ्यूचर यूज है, देन तब भी जीएसटी तो चार्ज करना पड़ेगा क्योंकि आप एडवांस से ले रहे हो. देन प्लेस ऑफ सप्लाई इज इफ द एड्रेस ऑफ द अनरजिस्टर्ड पर्सन इज अवेलेबल, then the location of such registered person. In other case, location of supply of services. अगर recipient का address है, then that will become the place of supply. अगर उसका details नहीं है, तो फिर location of the supplier of service ही place of supply बन जाएगा. ठीक है? Okay. Now let's go to a question where I started saying it already. From the following information, determine the ITC which is available. Goods purchased without invoice. तो इसके ऊपर आपको क्रेडिट मिलेगा क्या? Goods purchased without invoice, no input tax credit available since ABC is not in possession of a valid tax paying document. First requirement is you should have a invoice, right? In this case, you don't have an invoice, so credit is not admissible. Second scenario, goods purchased from PQR Limited. Full payment is made by ABC Limited against supply, but tax has not been deposited. Now he is not deposited the tax, so no registered person shall be entitled to credit of any ITC in respect of supply of goods unless the tax charge in respect of such supply has been actually paid to the government. Since PQR has not deposited the tax, I cannot claim the ITC. इसके ऊपर भी credit नहीं मिलेगा. Third case, Purchase of goods not to be used for business purposes. A registered person shall be entitled to take input tax credit which are used or intend to be used in the course of furtherance of business. If he's bought some goods which is not intended to be used for the furtherance of business, on that also credit is not available. Then purchase of goods from TT Limited, invoice of TT Limited is received in the month of September 2021, but goods are received in October 21. So for September credit मिलेगा क्या? नहीं. You will get it only in October 21. Then goods purchased against valid invoice from FF Limited. Tax has been deposited. ABC Limited has made payment for such purchases in the month of October. Okay, सितंबर का इनवॉइस है, अक्टूबर में पे किया है, सो इसका क्रेडिट तो मिलेगा बिकॉज दिस सैटिस्फाइज ऑल द कंडीशंस. So the credit eligible will be only 36,000 for this month. कितने का परचेज किया है और क्रेडिट कितना मिलेगा? सिर्फ 36,000. Fourth case also, Hemlata will not be available because you are not receiving it in this month. क्लियर नींची, आपका डाउट क्लियर हो गया? क्वेश्चन नंबर 34. One not allowed because invoice 36. 2 allowed. 3 not allowed. Person use 4. Is it sufficient to deposit the tax for taking credit? That is one of the conditions, not the only condition, but it is one of the conditions. Other conditions, what is there in section 16, that has definitely to be fulfilled, but non-deposit will not allow you to claim the credit. So second number may how we can't allowed, it is showing in 2A report outward supply. Correct. But क्या हो रहा है? Goods purchase, full payment is made against supply, but tax has not been deposited. If they have not deposited the tax, even if it is appearing in GST 2B, आपको GST 2B का तो एक condition है, उसके अलावा दूसरे condition भी है ना. So you've not satisfied the condition that PQR has not deposited the tax, so you cannot claim the credit. You have to go through all the provisions of section 16, not just one condition that it is appearing in 2B, so you can claim it. Not correct. Explain point 4 again. Yes, Vinay. Purchase of goods from TT Limited. Invoice of TT Limited is received in the month of September. Okay, but goods are received in the month of October. One of the conditions for claiming credit is what? That you should have actually received the goods. If you have not received the goods, you cannot claim the credit. I think ITC chapter, you are all lost touch. Let us recapitulate on ITC chapter. Yeah. Provision of section 16 relating to eligibility and conditions for taking credit. This 6 conditions has to be satisfied. Okay. First is he has valid tax invoice. Second is details of the invoice or debit notes are uploaded by the supplier in GSTR 3B in the GSTR 1. That is one condition. Tax on such supply has been paid. This is the third condition. He has received goods and services. This is also one of the important conditions. Details of ITC in respect of such supplies communicated to the registered person under section 38 not restricted. Then he has furnished the returns in under section 39. So these are the 6 conditions which has to be satisfied. Okay. Only if all the conditions are satisfied, only then you can claim the credit. Not just you have satisfied only this condition that it is appearing in 2B, you can claim it. No. You have to satisfy all the 6 conditions, only then you can claim it. सर अगर सप्लायर ने इनवॉइस में तो जीएसटी करी है, पोर्टल पर वही सेम अमाउंट नहीं पे किया है, तो रिसिपेंट कौन सी आईटीसी क्लेम करेगा? वो जो सेलर को पे किया है या वो जो सेलर ने अपनी जीएसटीआर 1 में, क्योंकि वन ऑफ द कंडीशंस इज जीएसटीआर 1 में उसको सही तरह से अपलोड करना चाहिए. अगर उसने गलत किया तो आप जीएसटीआर 1 में दीजिए, फिर वो फिर से अमेंड कर सकता है, तब आप डिफरेंशियल ले सकते हो. Can a delivery challan issued with goods supplied from one distinct person to another without invoice? Yes, they can issue a delivery challan. Yeah, how will the recipient know that tax is paid? Now in our GSTR 2B, we have that column, whether tax is paid by the supplier or no, we get it. So based on that, we will get to know whether the supplier has paid the taxes or no. Nistala, what is your, Purvika, what is 5th point, which you are asking? Fifth point, goods purchased against valid invoice. Tax has been deposited and payment has been made. So all the conditions has been satisfied. So in this case, we can claim the credit. Thirty-fourth question, 5th point. Okay. 5th point, all the conditions are satisfied. So we can claim the credit. That's why we are claiming the credit in 5th point. Correct. Okay. So let's proceed with the next question. Question number 35. XYZ Limited, New Delhi, manufactures biscuits under the brand name Tasty Picks. Biscuits are supplied to wholesalers and distributors located across India on FOR basis, matlab freight on receipt basis, from the warehouse of the company located at New Delhi. The company uses various modes of transportation for supplying the biscuits to its customers spread across the country. The transportation cost is shown as a line item in the invoice and is billed to the customers with a markup of 2% on total amount of freight paid, which is inclusive of tax. Flour used for the production process is like biscuit is there, so they will purchase the flour. Atta. So atta खरीदते हैं for all the production process is procured from vendors located in Madhya Pradesh on X factory basis. ठीक है, मतलब X factory basis मतलब वो factory तक देंगे, वहां से GT, वहां से ट्रांसपोर्टेशन का जवाबदारी मेरे ऊपर है. I have to get the goods. The company engages goods transport agencies to transport the flour from the factories of the vendors to its factory located in New Delhi. The company has provided the following data relating to transportation of biscuits and flour in the month of April. For sales within the NCR region, which is 20 lakhs value, the company arranged a local minivan belonging to an individual and paid him 54,000 rupees. For sales to location in instant states, okay, so various scenarios है, हम एक scenarios answer के साथ discuss करते हैं. Based on the particulars given above, compute the GST payable on the amounts paid for transportation when it avails the services of different transporters. Compute the GST charged on transportation cost billed by the company to its customers. Assume the rate of GST on transportation of goods is 5%, except where any other rate is specified, and GST on supply of biscuits to be 12%. Okay, so this is what we have to do. Very elaborate, big question. It will be interesting to solve this. Okay. First is computation of GST payable on amounts paid for transportation. Because two things. One is compute GST payable on amount paid for transportation. So XYZ Limited, when it pays amount for transportation, it has to pay under reverse charge. That we have to calculate. And then we have to calculate what is the GST charge on transportation cost billed to by the company. Only on the transportation cost, what I'm billing, what should be the GST there. Okay. First, transportation of biscuits in a local minivan belonging to an individual. Only the transportation of goods by road by a GTA is liable to GST. Therefore, transportation of goods by road otherwise than by a GTA is exempt. So GTA के ऊपर ही GST पे होगा. Other than GTA, if any supply, then it is not liable to tax. It is exempt. Transportation of goods by an individual is exempted. इसके ऊपर freight है, yes freight है, GST payable nil है. ठीक है. Second part. For sales to locations in distant states, the company booked the goods by Indian Railways and paid rail freight of 3,17,000 rupees. Transportation of biscuits by Indian Railways, freight कितना है? 3,17,000. GST लगेगा? हाँ. GST reverse charge पे 5% पे लगेगा. Third point, for sales to locations in neighboring states, the company booked the goods by road carrier GTAs and paid total freight of 3,73,000. Out of the total sales to neighboring sales, goods worth 10 lakhs were booked through a GTA, which paid tax at 12%. Freight of 73,000 was paid to such GTA. Okay, so there is a bifurcation here, wherein 3,73,000 value hai. Out of that, total sales to neighboring states, goods worth 10 lakhs were booked through a GTA, which paid tax at 12%. So where the GTA is paying tax, should I pay tax on that? I should not pay. What is the value then on 3,73,000? I will reduce 73,000 because it is not my responsibility to pay. So 373 से में से I will reduce 73,000, makes it 3 lakhs. On 3 lakhs, I have to pay reverse charge at 5%. Okay. Next point, for purchase of floors from Madhya Pradesh, the company booked the goods by a GTA and paid road freight of 55,000. Okay. Transportation of biscuits at 12%. Okay, so 12% के ऊपर I will not compute. So that 73,000 I will mention. GST is nil. I'm breaking up the 3 lakhs as 3 lakhs, 3 lakh and 73,000. On the next part of this 55,000, GST नहीं pay करना पड़ेगा because transportation of floor by GTA is exempted. Okay, so GTA में हमने देखा exemption. GTA in case of floor is exempted. So on floor, it is exempted. This is very important. Then for purchase of butter from Punjab, the company booked the goods by a GTA and paid total freight of 35,000. ठीक है? Your transportation of butter by GTA of inter alia milk is exempted from GST. Road transport of butter will not be exempted. Okay, butter is a milk product and not milk. So इसके ऊपर टैक्स तो लगेगा. सिर्फ मिल्क के ऊपर एग्जेम्पशन है, बटर के ऊपर नहीं है. फ्लोर के ऊपर एग्जेम्पशन है. ठीक है. नेक्स्ट पॉइंट, for purchase of baking powder, the company booked the goods by GTA in a single carriage and paid to road freight of 1,500. इसके ऊपर पहले exemption था लेकिन अभी नहीं है. Actual में this will also become taxable at 5%. Okay, so this exemption is no more. Service provided by GTA by way of transportation where the consideration charged on supply. So this is removed. So effectively, transportation of baking charges by GTA will be liable completely. Then last aspect is transferring of biscuits open market value 4 lakh to one of its sister concern. The company booked the goods by a GTA and paid road freight of 40,000 rupees. ठीक है, अपने को तो freight का मतलब है. So we will consider freight. Transportation of biscuits by GTA to sister concern. कितना है value? 40,000. GST is payable at 5% on that. ठीक है. Total tax payable by XYZ on availing services of different transporters, total value is 34,675. I have to only calculate total taxes, so I'm only calculating the total tax, which is 34,675. The second part of the question, okay, second part of the question is computation of GST charge on transportation costs billed by XYZ to its customers. Since XYZ is supplying biscuits on FOR basis, the service of transportation of biscuits gets bundled with the supply of biscuits. Thus, the supply of biscuits and transportation service is a composite supply, chargeable to tax at the rate applicable on the principal supply. Biscuit के ऊपर 12% है, तो फिर transportation. That is the relevance of the question when it says FOR, freight on receipt basis. मतलब my responsibility is to deliver the goods at your location. FOR का basis वो है. So when I deliver the goods to your location, it means the responsibility of transportation is also mine. So it's a composite supply and the rate of freight will be at 12%. What is the value of that? Particulars, freight paid, GST on freight, freight billed with markup, and what is the GST charged? So it's a complete questionnaire here. Transportation of biscuits in a local minivan belong to an individual. So जो 54,000 है वो मैं इधर लेके आऊंगा और मैं मार्कअप भी कर रहा हूं because the question says that I have a markup of 2% on it. Bill to a customer at a markup of 2%. So 2% markup करके GST कितना charge करूंगा? 12%. Then transportation of biscuits by Indian Railways 3,70,000. GST paid है. I've paid. So what is my total value? Transportation is cost is shown in line item in invoice and is billed to customers with a markup of 2% of the total amount of freight paid inclusive of taxes. So inclusive of tax में 2% margin कर रहा हूँ. So this is the value. Then transportation biscuits by GTA, again take the value. Then transportation of biscuits by GTA again at 12%. जो भी ऊपर का value है that I will take line by line. And is there any tax? Then I will take the tax and add the markup. Total tax charged by XYZ on transportation cost billed to customers. Only to customers. जब मैं खुद खरीद रहा हूँ या एक दूसरे GSTN को बेच रहा हूँ within the same entity, then I will not include it. So to my total customers, what GST I will charge? 95,914. Note, it has been assumed that there is no markup on transportation cost billed to sister concern. So आप sister concern को कर रहे हो तो वहां पे markup नहीं है. This is what is your assumption. Clear? Very elaborate question, very detailed question, but very good question to understand how to do the calculation of value and the addition and then charge the GST. Explain third point. Okay. Third point says transportation of biscuits by GTA. और इसका क्या है थर्ड पॉइंट में ये है विच मेंशंस द 3,73,000 है तो 73,000 के ऊपर GTA इज पेइंग GST तो मुझे RCM पे नहीं करना है सो आई हैव एक्सक्लूडेड 3 लाख ये है 73,000 ये है तो 3 लाख के ऊपर मैं रिवर्स चार्ज पे करूंगा 73 के अंदर रिवर्स चार्ज पे नहीं करूंगा मार्कअप मतलब मार्जिन जो भी फ्रेट का है चार्जेस मैं उसके ऊपर 2% ऐड करके कस्टमर को प्रोवाइड करता हूँ गुड गुड सैनी सिंह अच्छा लगा कि आप अभी आए कि बट यू आर नॉट आंसरिंग द क्वेश्चंस बट ठीक है आपको समझ में आ गया ये अच्छी बात ग्रेट सर वेरी लेंथी क्वेश्चन टू एंड विथ आई हैव फ्यू मोर क्वेश्चंस आफ्टर दिस मैं उसका आंसर्स भी आपको अपलोड करता हूँ क्वेश्चन नंबर 36 और 37 ग्रेट एनी दिस तो बहुत डिटेल है इसको आपको ठीक से पढ़ना पड़ेगा डेफिनेटली यू विल हैव सम डाउट्स टुमारो वी हैव वन मोर सेशन द लास्ट सेशन ऑन updates, statutory updates. We will go through the statutory updates. Then I will have some time wherein I will take all your questions also. So transportation of baking powder by GT is exempt because transportation of goods by GT are exempt. Baking powder pe. No, it is not exempt. It is taxable. Mr. I'll take your question tomorrow. And I didn't get that actually the point I where I should do it. Okay. So you were watching on YouTube. Okay. On BOS, you could ask questions. Fine, no worries. Second, explain second table in this problem. Second table क्या बोलता है that first is on which you have to pay reverse charge. Second is on this transportation charges you are providing on FOR basis. FOR basis पे जब supply करता हूँ, it means the responsibility. मतलब जब हम Amazon से purchase करते हैं, delivery भी Amazon का ही responsibility है. Like that, this is a FOR basis wherein freight on receipt basis. The responsibility of the supplier is up to the point of the location of the customer, which means what? I will have to supply it up to the place of the customer. So this transportation becomes part of my main supply. So it is a composite supply. That's why the GST rate on this transportation is the same rate of the value of goods. वरना 5% रहता है, लेकिन ये composite supply है. So the value of rate of GST on this transportation is the GST rate what you charge on the main product. All these questions I will have to upload, Divyanshi. You'll get it. Yes. Thank you, Hardik. Yes. Thank you for acknowledging that. This question, I think, for be for at least, I mean, they have higher questions, right? Like for 12 or 14 marks, you will get this for a 12 or 14 mark question. Thank you, everyone. So we'll catch up tomorrow and we'll work on the statutory updates and we'll see. Hope you're all studying for your exams. There are no postponement and things. Please be prepared. Now you have very less time. Do your best.